What's the best city in the world to live as a young entrepreneur? There's a new report out that tells you what the top 10 cities are, and as usual, I find these lists to be incredibly biased and Western-centric and not in line with going where you're treated best. But today I'm going to share with you a few diamonds in the rough among young cities for entrepreneurs where you can actually get ahead and share my thoughts on where young entrepreneurs should live. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. This is Nomad Capitalist, where we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. And as a lifelong entrepreneur, I believe that going where you're treated best is a valuable way not only to improve your lifestyle, improve your personal happiness, improve your motivation as an entrepreneur, improve your competitiveness. Because if you legally reduce your tax rate, if you know you have options and you're never going to be painted into a corner, you will be a better entrepreneur. That is the thesis of what we do here, and I've seen it in my own personal life. When I've removed baggage that was holding me back in my life, I have become a more nimble, more successful, clearer thinking, happier entrepreneur. But there's a report today, came out from a City AM, this is in London, and they are touting how London was named the best city in the world to be a young entrepreneur, ahead of New York, San Francisco, and Moscow. And they shared a top 10 list of places to be a young entrepreneur. Number 1, London. Number 2, New York. Number 3, San Francisco. Then Moscow. And then Los Angeles, Stockholm, Toronto, Boston, Chicago, and finally Berlin in number 10. How did they do this? What was their methodology? Well, it appears it was as simple as basically looking at the Forbes 30 under 30 list from around the world. These people who are under 30 years old and get voted as the people to watch kind of thing. And basically adding this up to where London has 115, New York has 106, San Francisco has 88. Now, my thought is this doesn't really make a lot of sense, because the fact that you have mere hundreds of these entrepreneurs out of 582 million estimated entrepreneurs worldwide, we're going to look at maybe 1,000 of them, not even 1,000, I don't think, because the numbers quickly go down into the teens for some of the lower rated cities. We're going to look at some of these people who are, in my opinion, rather outliers to say where all entrepreneurs should live. Now, let's look at a couple gems in there, depending on how you're structured, depending on how your business is set up and how you live there. Potentially, of those 10, London and Moscow could be tax-friendly. The UK has certain tax incentives that could be used for entrepreneurs, where you could reduce the base on which you were paying tax. Moscow has incentives, again, if you're an entrepreneur working in Moscow, but perhaps your companies aren't entirely all in Russia, you could pay a flat amount of tax. Other than that, these countries pass what I think is one of the most important tests for any young entrepreneur to look at, and that is, where can I legally reduce my taxes? Berlin, no. Stockholm, heck no. Toronto, no. Although perhaps you'd be more productive by never being allowed to leave your house. That might produce more productivity. San Francisco, California is looking to raise taxes to rates just in the state and the city level more than many countries when you put together San Francisco and California. And so when I look at these countries, I look at these cities rather, and the countries in which they're in, I say to myself, this is a place for a young entrepreneur to go and to be utterly taken for a ride when it comes to how much money they get to reinvest in their business, how much money they get to put towards their lifestyle. You know, it's interesting to me as water seeks its own level. If you live in San Francisco, certainly as an entrepreneur, you can control how much money you make, and there certainly are people living in San Francisco who make millions of dollars a year, they pay millions of dollars in taxes, and they still have a nice lifestyle. They buy overpriced real estate, everything they do is expensive, they pay $100 a day to park their car, whatever it may be. And so, fine, they can get by. But imagine you had extra money to put aside to build your business, and how much faster your business could grow if you didn't have that high cost of living and that high tax burden. Accumulating more wealth, accumulating more capital to invest when you're young is the secret to getting ahead. When you look at starting investing when you're 25 versus when you're 30 or 35, all the financial advisors always tell you those 5 or 10 years really compound. So get started as soon as possible. But yet they never tell you, find a way to lower your taxes on your business so that way your business will grow faster, you can be more competitive, you can hire more staff, you can do more things. And so if you follow the go where you're treated best approach, where young entrepreneurs should go, you'd be hiring in jurisdictions that are welcoming. Perhaps they give you special benefits for hiring there. Perhaps they give you tax incentives for hiring there. Wages may be lower. People may be more productive, what have you. Why would you be hiring in highly litigious, Madman, California, San Francisco. I have no idea. Why you'd be living there, I have no idea. There's an idea, and again, if you want to go to London or Moscow and possibly take advantage of some tax benefits, that's fine. I thought the lesson from this pandemic was more people can be remote. You have people who are saying, why do I need to work in San Francisco or New York or London or Sydney when I can go and work in Croatia with the digital Nomad visa program? Obviously, people are working remotely within their own countries, but some are also working remotely internationally. And if you have people on your team that are saying that and they're doing that, why wouldn't you take the same lesson? I have a hard time understanding why. Forget the fact that you have perhaps more restrictions in the year 2022 for living in, let's say, a London. Why would you want to go and live in these cities to pay a top-tier tax rate when you've seen people in the last 2 years realize the taxes they're paying aren't worth it? That's why New York, California, and other high-tax places around the world have had a mass exodus of people to places where taxes are lower. Why? Because people who are successful are realizing they're not getting the value. Yes, there are personal freedom considerations. Yes, there are it's hard to find a job when everything's shut down. There's many reasons, but among those, why are so many people in the United States moving to Puerto Rico, for example, to where real estate prices are at record highs? It's insane down there because they've seen, even during the pandemic, the idea of moving to another territory or to another country during a pandemic was palatable to them because they've realized how much of their money is not getting them anything. They don't have the infrastructure they thought they had. They don't have any of the benefits. And so for me, young entrepreneurs are the most susceptible to not wasting money. You don't want to waste money when you could be putting it to work in your business for the next 40 years. It's one thing if you're 60 years old and you're at the end of your business career and you're planning to sell your business or pass it down. Maybe an extra 5 years of tax savings wouldn't affect you. But if we're talking about young entrepreneurs, I don't even understand the networking effect anymore. I have a mentor who lives in Canada. I have people I work with who we do coaching and we help each other out. I have someone who lives in Indonesia. I have people all over the world that I talk to. I've got a guy who's a friend of mine. We talk business in Portugal. I am physically today with very few people. I meet up with them from time to time. I meet up with members of my team in various cities from time to time, but I'm not in any one place. And even if I were in any one place, it wouldn't probably be with any of those people. I would be on my own. And somehow I've managed to build a business that has grown. Now, I'm not on the under 30 list, nor am I under 30, but to me, the weird dichotomy here is where you have your employees working remotely in places like Barbados and Croatia with digital nomad visas. And there are potentially maybe some tax considerations for your business to consider in some cases on that. But you as the founder want to live in London or New York or San Francisco? I thought we've learned that these places aren't necessary. I get the argument for networking. Hasn't really worked out in recent years. And I think people, in the same way as working remotely, have realized you can network remotely in many cases. You can get a lot done without being in the same place. And so for me, the best place for young entrepreneurs are where you can build a team, where you can be supported, where you can maintain the most of your wealth, have a lifestyle that you want. And quite frankly, these kind of name brand cities where people just flock just because, I think you could find equally good alternatives for almost any of them. By the way, that may be that there's a better alternative for London somewhere else in the UK, and you still might take advantage of any possible UK tax incentives. But these are the cities that always show up in these lists. Stockholm, I suppose I haven't seen before, but it's always the same places. Why is nobody talking about, even though it's a high tax place, Tel Aviv has been on a lot of radars for tech entrepreneurs. Why is not that? Why don't you go to Yerevan, where you can hire people in Armenia for dramatically lower salaries and much better terms? They're much more welcoming to you, and you have a growing Silicon Valley there. Why aren't you going to Mexico, where everything is open and you have great food and you have a lot of people who are going down there and building communities? If you're in the crypto space, if you're a crypto entrepreneur, why don't you go to a place, maybe not quite El Salvador yet, but people are certainly going down there. Why don't you go where other crypto entrepreneurs are? People increasingly are not going to these cities. I don't believe they're the best. I don't believe that the presence of a few hundred people who got ranked by Forbes for, I'm not sure what the criteria are, counts as where you should go. But quite frankly, I think there's a lot better cities than this to go as a young entrepreneur. Don't stop now. We've got well over 1,000 more videos here on YouTube for you to watch and learn how to go where you're treated best. And if you want to work with Nomad Capitalists personally, go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply. Learn about our unique, tried and true process. garnered over years of experience, and learn how you can become our client.